Okay, in this video we're going to take a look at another area of the Home tab. We're going to take a look at the number group right here, which has options for formatting numbers. And most of this stuff is pretty straightforward. Let's do a little bit of formatting down here. Frequently when you have dollar values, you put dollar signs on the first row, you don't put dollar signs on subsequent rows, then you put dollar signs again down here on the total row. And all you need to do is go up here and click on the dollar sign, and notice that you do have some other options, but since we're in the United States, we're going to just click on dollar sign here, and it puts a dollar sign out here on the far left. It puts a little gap in between, so the dollar signs are always going to be left aligned, but the numbers are going to be right aligned. And it adds a comma for numbers that are over 1,000, and it adds 2 decimal places for all of the numbers that we selected. And with numbers this big, I don't really care about pennies, so we can increase or decrease the number of decimal places over here. Let's increase it a couple of times first, and notice Excel is nice enough to make the columns wider for me when I do that. And then let's decrease it all the way down to 0 decimal places. Now it doesn't shrink it back again, so if I want to make my columns a little bit narrower, the easy way is to select all of them and get your 2-headed arrow and drag it back and forth to increase or decrease the width. Okay. Now, what about these numbers in the middle here? I could just leave them, but there is 2 things I'd like to fix about them. One is, if I've got a number here that is more than 1,000, I'd like to have a comma in that number. I don't want a dollar sign, but I do want a comma. And another thing you probably noticed is that when we formatted the numbers up here in the first row and down here in the bottom row, they're right aligned, but they don't go all the way quite up to the edge of the cell like these other numbers in the middle here do. So the ones columns, don't really line up. The tens columns don't line up like they should. So the way to fix that is, if you don't want dollar signs here, the comma button does exactly the same thing, but without the dollar sign. And so I get 2 decimal places, I get commas, and you notice it pushed them back out from the right a little bit, so now everything is lined up just right. And now if I click on decrease decimal twice, now I've got a comma here where I want it, and all of these numbers are lined up directly underneath the numbers with the dollar signs. We've also got some numbers over here that are labeled percent of budget, so maybe those ought to be labeled with a percent sign. So percents are fractions. These are all numbers that are less than 1 except for the last one. This should be 30%, 50%, 20%, and 100%. And this does not change the value. 30% and 0.3 are the exact same thing. All it does is display those decimal fractions as percents instead of as decimals. Now there are some other options up here. We've got general, which most of the time I don't use. If you don't specify anything, general is what you get. If I click all of this stuff here and go up and click on general, I'm basically back where I was when I started. So basically no formatting is done. Number is the same as the comma button here. It puts, I'm sorry, it's not. It's almost the same. It does 2 decimal places. Notice also on the right side, though, it does not push it into the left a little bit like the comma and the dollar sign did. I'm going to undo that, and let's go back here and see what else we got. We've got currency, which is the same as clicking on the dollar sign, except it's got a floating dollar sign, and instead of everything lining up over here on the left edge, it floats up right next to the number. And that's the difference between currency and accounting. Accounting is basically the same thing, but the dollar sign does not float. The dollar sign is fixed out here on the left edge. Now there are some other options here. We've got some options for dates and times. Percentage down here is basically the same as, let me just grab this stuff here because that's all it really should be, percents. And click on that. And it does it with 2 decimal places, so we have to go in and decrease the number of decimal places. But most of the things you can do up here, at least with general numbers, for general number, currency, accounting, and percent are pretty much the same as what you can do just right here on the ribbon, so there's really not a whole lot of need to go up here very often. If you want some more choice over your number formats, you can go here to more number formats, and we've got some choices here for general, which basically doesn't let you make any changes. Number, you can increase number of decimal places. You can tell it what to use for a separator. You can pick whether you want negative numbers to have a minus sign, to be in red, or have parentheses around them, or be red and have parentheses around them. Same thing with currency, except you get the dollar sign. Accounting is similar. You can increase number of decimal places, and percentage, you can basically increase or decrease the decimal places, which you can, and you can do all of this stuff pretty much from up here, except for selecting the way that negative numbers are formatted. So most of the time, you can do the formatting that you want to from going to the Home tab and going to the number group. Every once in a while, you may need to go to that dialog box here called Format Cells, click on the Number tab, and make a few changes. Okay, and that's the number group. We'll take a look at some other features up here on the Home tab in some other videos.